Hey everyone. In this video, I want to talk to you about why you shouldn't reach out to any of your exes, especially in the cases where your ex left you. The first thing I want to talk about here is that there's usually a reason why things ended in the first place. I mean, we often know that in the back of our minds, but we'll ignore that fact when we get lonely and we want to reach out to our ex because, hey, I mean, there was a reason we were attracted to them in the first place, and because we were close to them for a while, we feel like there's someone comfortable for us. So we'll reach out to them or over other people. But you have to remember, why did it end? And obviously not every reason is going to be equal here. So this video is more in the cases where your exes weren't all that great for you. If your ex was actually awesome for you and things ended because maybe you or maybe there were logistical reasons, it's a bit different. So that isn't the case that I'm talking about in this video, because in those cases, if you've worked on yourself, then sure, you could probably reach out to that ex because they're good for you. But if your ex wasn't all that great of a partner for you, then remind yourself why that was. For instance, a lot of guys will try to go after their ex again when they fail to remind themselves that their ex maybe cheated on them, or maybe she was entertaining other men, or she was just not respecting him, things like that. And women will go back to their old boyfriend exes for similar reasons. And it's dumb. You have to respect yourself enough to not go back to people who are bad for you, especially if they disrespected you by cheating on you or just overstepping your boundaries or doing other things like that. Because that tells you right then and there that if they don't have respect for you, or if they didn't have respect for you back then, what makes you think that's going to change suddenly? Even if time has passed, people usually fall back into their old patterns, their old routines. So if you get back together with somebody that you've already tried things out with, they're probably going to end up reverting back to whoever the hell they were when you last dated them. That's for most people, the average person who doesn't work on themselves. So why would you want to repeat the past? That's what you're pretty much going to end up doing. So that's one of the main reasons why you should always remind yourself why things ended in the first place. Now, the next thing here is, if your ex truly wanted you back in their life, they would make an effort to do that, right? They would reach out to you, they would text you, call you, whatever. If they haven't done any of that, then why are you going to reach out to them? Because that likely tells you, since you're the one initiating, that they haven't, well, potentially been thinking of you, and they probably don't really exactly want you back in their life. I can't say for certain, but like I said, if they actually wanted you back, they would probably have already been making an effort to do so. So if they're not doing that, then why would you want to reach out to them? Why do you want to go after people who don't want you? It's like talking to a brick wall. It's just, there's no point in that. They've already got their walls put up, and nobody's worth chasing. I've already made videos on that, so definitely watch those ones because they will help you in this endeavor. Because even if you're head over heels for an ex, usually in the cases where they left you, because obviously if you leave them, then it was your choice, so you're probably not going to want them back all that much because there would have been a reason why you ended things. But if they left you, you just have to move on, really. That's all you can do, because the ball is in their court on whether or not they let you back into their life. And if they weren't all that great for you, then you shouldn't even want them back. Even if they were great in bed, or they made you feel loved or wanted or whatever the hell. Remember, you always have to ask yourself, is this person actually good for me? If you love them, that is not enough. You need more than love, because you can very much fall in love with someone who's an abuser, who is completely toxic and horrible for you. So love isn't enough. You need to ask yourself, are they good for me? Because if the answer is no, then you need to do what's right for you. You need to put yourself first, and you need to respect yourself and choose yourself. These are very important things. That's why I'm like a broken record in talking about this, because it's super important for your own happiness. And now, on to the next thing. If you try to force it by reaching out to them, I hate to say it, but things likely won't play out in the way that you desire. quite often people will build this like little fantasy in their minds of how things are going to play out. But I can tell you, they're probably not going to go the way that you anticipated at all. I can't tell you how many times I've been talking with friends or even just reading people's experience online, and people say that they were visualizing like reaching out to their ex and their ex wanting them back and being like, oh man, I was thinking about you as well and I wanted you back in my life. That hardly ever happens. That is so incredibly rare. Most often, what ends up happening is the ex has already moved on. They're probably even with somebody new, and they just see you reaching out to them as desperation. And they're going to read your message and be like, oh wow, they're still not over me, huh? Okay, whatever. And they probably won't even respond to you. At least if they are in a good place. They just won't see a point usually. So you're going to get yourself hurt. Your ego is going to deflate. So it's usually not worth reaching back out to them for that reason. And definitely don't fall into the trap of creating these delusional fantasies of how things are going to play out, because they just very likely are not going to go the way that you anticipated, and you'll set yourself up for failure. And now, the final thing I want to touch on here, this is a bit more psychological, but if you reach out to your ex in the case where they left you, it makes you come off needy or desperate, like I mentioned before. It kind of sends a message like you have no other options besides them, and they're going to know that. They're going to, well, even if it's not true, that's the way they'll likely interpret it. They're going to think, oh, so they have no other options besides me, and that's why they're reaching out to me. That's interesting. So basically, psychologically, it's going to be telling them that they have all the power in the situation. The ball is in their court because you reached out to them. You initiated. So they literally have all the power in this little situation. And I don't really like to talk about power dynamics all that much, because this is just something that you don't want to be thinking about too much in life, because it can mess you up. But there are social hierarchies and that sort of thing in our interactions, and there are situations where whoever holds the most power, definitely they're going to be in a better position than others. And in this situation, whoever is being on the receiving end of the communication, whoever is being reached out to, they're going to have all the power here, because you're the one initiating to them. You're giving them the choice. And they'll likely know that, even if it's subconscious, they're probably going to feel like, whoa, I can decide here, and the person's fate is in my hands. And that's just not something you want to do with an ex, especially in those cases where your ex wasn't great for you. Why would you want to give them that satisfaction again? Why would you want to make them think, oh, my ex is still not over me? It's going to boost their ego, and they can also let you down again, which will hurt you. So it's just not worth it. So in the end, just to sum things up, I truly don't believe it's worth reaching out to your exes like 90% of the time, and that last little 10% is only when your ex was actually good for you, when they were a good person, and maybe there was just some reason things couldn't work out between the two of you. Maybe they had to move to another place. Maybe you were going in different life paths at an earlier period in time. Usually what ends up happening in those situations where I would say it's okay to reach out to an ex is a bunch of years have passed and you just end up somehow reconnecting, because that happens to many of us, and that's even happened to my roommate a ton of times. In fact, he tells me awesome stories about how often women from his past like reach out to him now, like years, almost decades later, and they tell him how much they would love to date him now because they can't find another guy like him. So if you work on yourself, you can be like that as well, where all the people from your past will eventually realize that, hey, you were quite a catch, and there aren't many people out there like you, and you're a rare individual, and it puts you in a special place. But that was a bit of a tangent. But that's the only situation where I would say reaching out to an ex is okay after a long period of time has passed and they've worked on themselves, you've worked on yourself, and maybe this new attempt could make things work. Who knows? But in almost any other case, I would say you really shouldn't reach out to your exes, especially if they were bad for you, especially if they cheated on you or broke your trust or stepped over your boundaries or other things like that. Just like I said, I don't care how much you love them. I don't care what your feelings are for them. I don't care how they made you feel, if they made you feel wanted and that sort of thing. They're just, if they're not good for you, they're not good for you. And that's what you need to focus on, because everything else does not matter. You'll be able to find other people in your future who will be able to love you and make you feel wanted without stepping over your boundaries, without cheating on you, without breaking your trust, without doing other negative things. So always be looking towards the future and just realize that the past usually worked out in the way it did for a reason. And there's usually a reason why our relationships end with certain people, because it opens the door to newer, better people for us, which will help us create beautiful experiences in the future. But anyway, I hope this video helped you, and if you liked it, then feel free to like it and share your thoughts down below and help that algorithm, because that freaking thing is a bane in my existence. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Arrivederci!